In today's video, we're going to be talking about failure. Now, a couple videos ago, I mentioned that I am in a self-improvement group, and what we do is we meet every single morning on Sundays, and it's virtually, but we meet every morning on Sundays and we set goals for the week, and everybody within the group holds each other accountable to those goals. Now, I've been in that community for between 3.5 and 4 weeks, so I think I've attended 4 sessions where I've shared goals with the other members of the community, and then we report back on the following Sunday to make sure that we are staying accountable. Now, every single week I have failed my goals. Typically we set about 3 of them, sometimes more. I don't think we've done less. I think the minimum is 3 goals, and we'll try to do various things, like we'll have a business goal, a self-development goal, a mental health goal, a physical goal. We try to break it down into a couple different categories, maybe like 3 to 5 goals every single week. And I have consistently failed those weekly goals. And the reason that I wanted to make this video is to talk a little bit about failure, and why, even though failure does have a negative connotation towards it, and we want to be striving to not fail, but to succeed, failure is very critical in the grand scheme of things. And when I think about, my career and how I've developed in real estate over the last 5 years, as well as other areas of my life, whether it's related to fitness or whether it's related to, relationships or pretty much anything, it starts with failure. It starts with you trying something that you've never done before, taking that first step, and then kind of like falling on your face. And you can't be scared to fail. I think that's the thing that holds a lot of people back, is they don't even start, they don't even try because they are scared of failure. I have failed so much over the last 5 years. But after every single time I fail, I learn something and I get better. And that's why I've been able to achieve so much success. It's because I failed much more than the majority of people. Anytime you try something new, you're going to fail. Think of picking up a new sport, right? You're going to do your sport and you don't know how to play. You're going to be running around, you're going to be looking all goofy. The other kids or the other, people that have been doing it longer than you are going to be better than you, and you're going to fail. I remember my very first 2 weeks in football. I was finally old enough for my parents to let me play football. I think I was like 10 or 11, and up until that point, I've only ever played, football at the school playground with my friends and 2-hand touch football and just tossing the football around. But I always wanted to play football. And I loved to run and catch the ball. I loved to be a receiver. That's what that position is called here for football. And I remember the first 2 weeks, I was one of the new kids on the team. And because I was starting at like age 11 or age 10 or 11, the other kids had already been playing for a couple years, so they all knew each other. So I was kind of like the new kid on the team. And there was other new kids, but I was like the new kid on the team. And I very distinctly remember for the first few weeks, I didn't really get a chance to, showcase my skills. And I remember showing up to practice and, I was new at the drills. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was naturally good at catching the football, but I didn't really get to showcase those abilities. So that first few weeks, I remember going home to my dad. Well, actually at the time, my dad was in the Army, so he wasn't there. So I remember calling my dad and I was crying, because I felt so good, but I just wasn't given the opportunity, and I was, not super good at the drills. I kept failing the drills, and he just told me, like, hey, look, you can't give up. You got to keep working, and you're going to fail, and you're going to learn as you go, but you have to keep going at it, basically, right? And that's what I did, and I ended up having an awesome, wonderful career, I guess, in a sense, in football. I only played a Little League in high school, but my last year in Little League, I won Player of the Year for my team. And in high school football, I played varsity football for a couple years. I was a starter for a couple years, and then I ended up playing on the all-county team for the region. I was on the all-star team. So it starts with failure. When I think of real estate, I had failures in real estate early on. I remember I didn't make my first singular dollar in real estate for 4 whole months. I didn't make one single dollar. In fact, I lost money. All right, guys, funny enough, my memory card is full, and this is like 65 gigabytes, so I've been filming a lot of content. So I remember I didn't make my first real estate commission for 4 months. I made $0. And then when I did make my first paycheck, I think it was a little over $3,000. It was like 3,500, something like that. And up until that point, I probably spent close to $3,000 through all the fees and things of that nature that are associated with real estate. So I was 4 months in and I made $500, but I had been putting in, I kid you not, 4 months worth of work. This was at the COVID lockdown too, by the way. So I was still in the Air Force. They said, hey, don't come in. We don't know what's going on with COVID. So I was, working from home, quote unquote, in the Air Force, but they didn't really have us doing a whole lot from home. So I was, watching all these real estate videos on YouTube, and I was doing all these trainings with the brokerage on Zoom and all that stuff. And basically, working every single day to build myself up as a real estate agent. So 4 months in, I made $500. I could have chopped that up and said, hey, this isn't working out. I failed. And a lot of you guys might not know this, but the failure rate for real estate agents is 87% within the first 2 years. And of the 13% of agents that make it, the average agent maybe sells a couple houses a year, which isn't enough to really survive and make a livable, income from real estate, right? But here's the caveat. The first 4 months in real estate, I was struggle busing it, and now check this out. 4 months in real estate, I was struggling, and now look at this. These are 2 local real estate magazines. That's me right there. And this isn't to brag. This is to tell you that I went at it for 4.5 months with 0 tangible things of success. Now I'm a top-ranked real estate agent in the area. If I would have given up at my first little site of failure, I'd never be here, and I would regret that so much had I have thrown in the white towel. But now take a look at that. So failure is necessary. When it comes to self-improvement, I love self-improvement, and I have definitely been failing my goals in my weekly community in terms of my self-improvement stuff that I'm working on. However, in the last month, I have had so much growth, way more growth than I've had in the past, even though I've failed. So I'm super happy with where I am right now, super happy in the direction that I'm going. And it really is about having the confidence and the courage to fail. Because at the end of the day, failure is what's going to come before all this stuff. Failure is going to come before that. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you liked it, hit the subscribe. Don't be scared to fail. If you got something that you're thinking about doing that you're like, man, I'm really nervous, all my friends are going to clown me for it, I'm going to fail, blah, blah, blah. Here's an example for you. I'm super successful in my real estate business. YouTube, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with YouTube. I don't know shit about YouTube. So in a sense, when I post one of these videos and it gets 9 views and I put my absolute heart and soul into it, and I'm spending 4 hours in the editing and crafting and trying to be creative and show my personality, and then it gets 7 views, to a degree, maybe that would be considered failure. But if I never give up, is it failure? If it ends up working out in the long run, is it failure?